All right, man, peace. So, brothers, one of my interests is zoology. And over the years of researching zoology and the various characteristics and habits of creatures and animals of all sorts, one of the things that I came to realize in regards to predators is that no matter how ferocious or mighty an apex predator is, if it's solitary, if it hunts by itself, eventually it will itself become prey to pack hunters. For example, in Africa, you have the mighty lion, but even the lion sometimes is rendered prey to the hyena or the pack of wild hunting dogs. In the Americas, you have the cougar. The cougar is a ferocious predator, or even the jaguar. But even the jaguar or the cougar can be surrounded by wolves and taken apart. Even grizzly bears have been known to be taken down by a pack of wolves if that pack is large enough. Why am I bringing all this up? Because Mr. Damian Lillard, the superstar guard for the Portland Trail Blazers, has finally come to the realization, due to his maturity, that it's time for him to eventually make his exit from Portland to greener pastures. Because something that an astute man always comes to understand is that eventually you do have to conform to your environment to a degree in order to thrive. And he's looking all across the league. He's seeing superstars team up. And even though he is an apex predator himself, he is by himself. And therefore he is rendered prey to teams like the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors, soon to be the LA Lakers, the Boston Celtics, etc. So he knows he has no chance. So now he has decided to send out little feelers to the LA Lakers to let them know that should they be willing to trade for him, he is more than willing, able, and eager to come play with Mr. LeBron Ramon James. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Let's get right into it, guys. So the Lakers are still trying to upgrade their roster around LeBron James, obviously, but another All-Star might be hinting that he wouldn't mind being part of the solution. Yesterday, a fan tweeted Damian Lillard and asked him if he'd be happy to join the Lakers, and LeBron and Lillard responding with this: "I am typically a happy camper."
In other words, LA Lakers, if you can swing that deal, swing it as soon as possible to get me out of Portland. I did a video a while ago featuring Mr. CJ McCollum, where Stephen A. Smith looked CJ right in his face and told him that the Portland Trail Blazers were going to have to make a major move and move one of those two members of their superstar backcourt with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. One of those two players would have to be traded in order for the Portland Trail Blazers to have a chance to move up to the next level. And I agreed with him. And I think that teaming up with LeBron James would be perfect for Dame, because I don't believe that he has any true interest in being an actual point guard in the NBA. I think that he's more comfortable being a combo guard, meaning a player who can pass but chooses to shoot more. That's what's very popular in the NBA right now.
Stephen A., I'll start with you. Break this one down for me. Do you think this tweet is a big deal or no big deal?
Well, it's a big deal because of what's transpiring right now. I mean,
it's absolutely a big deal. And look for the Lakers to try to push for that trade if they cannot secure Mr. Kawhi Leonard.
I mean, I had a few calls from last night and this morning. Actually, I went on the air on my radio show today, the Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio, and about 2 to 3 minutes before that call, I got some additional information. Here's what's going on. Damian Lillard, Max, wants to stay in Portland. He has no problem playing for the Blazers.
Yes, Damian Lillard has no problem staying in Portland, in the same way that a guy has no problem staying with his longtime girlfriend that he knows he has no real intentions on taking their relationship to the next level, because he sees her and all her flaws, all her warts, and he says to himself, she's a nice person, she's moderately faithful, she's a 7 or 8, but she's not spectacular. And I cannot make any real quote-unquote commitment to her because she does not have what it takes for me to want to take this to the next level. That's where Dame is right now. He's willing to stay there if nothing happens, but he would love for something to happen. Believe me.
He has no problem living in the city of Portland. They treat him great, etc., etc. With his contract, along with the endorsements, he's pulling in over 40 to 45 million per year. So he's good from that perspective. But the problem is that the Jimmy Butlers of the world, the Kevin Loves of the world, and various others, as much as they would love to play with him, they certainly are not that interested in going to Portland. More so Jimmy Butler than anybody else. They're not interested in going to Portland. Damian Lillard has become aware of this reality. And as a result of it, from what I'm being told, he has now made it he is now of the mindset, rather, that although his preference would be to stay in Portland and have people come there, and the Portland Trailblazers are certainly not interested at all in losing him, he would entertain going to the Lakers or the New York Knicks.
That's so interesting because Damian Lillard was one of the more vociferous members of the NBA, going on and on about how he would never leave his home city, how he thought that it would be best to build up the team that they were drafted by. Very similar to what Kevin Durant was saying back in 2010 when LeBron left Cleveland for Miami. It's just amazing how so many of these players, they grow up and mature and they realize what life is really about.
As a matter of fact, those would be his two preferences. He doesn't want to leave Portland, but he is willing to leave, which is unlike what he felt in the past. He is willing to leave to go to the Lakers or the New York Knicks.
It's not that he's willing to leave, he's willing to be traded, Stephen A. Smith. That's what it is, because he's not a free agent. The NBA may eventually have to figure out what they want to do about this situation, because it's becoming more and more apparent that many of their more notable players only want to play for about 4 or 5 cities, that being LA, New York, Miami, and Houston. So the NBA is going to have to figure out what they want to do about this situation, because it seems to be becoming a problem.
With LeBron James or Kristaps Porzingis, because the belief is once he gets to one of those two places, either situation is going to attract some of those marquee guys that are scheduled to be available in 2019. So if you are the Los Angeles Lakers, you now have yourself in a quandary. You are talking to the San Antonio Spurs about Kawhi Leonard. Do you shun that? Do you push that aside, Max, and then turn around and look at Portland and say, we're going to go after Damian Lillard?
I think that's exactly what they do, Stephen A. Smith. I think that for this season, you leave the Kawhi Leonard situation alone. And you say to yourself, we'll hope that the LA Clippers are not able to formulate a package for him, because he will most likely sign an extension with them if that happens. Or we have to hope that he does not get traded to the Celtics and become enraptured by that franchise, that city, and that team, and then decide to sign an extension. But I think that Damian Lillard would most likely be easier to attain in a trade than a Kawhi Leonard, because Kawhi Leonard is widely considered one of the top 5 players in the NBA. Dame Lillard is widely considered probably one of the top 15 players in the NBA.
And we'll just wait for Kawhi in the summer of 2019.
Ding. That's exactly what they should do.
Or do you ignore what Damian Lillard locked in contract for the next 3 years with Portland, by the way? Do you ignore that and continue to pursue Kawhi Leonard? That's the situation right now that the Los Angeles Lakers are facing.
It's amazing how differently you see a situation when you're 28 as opposed to when you're 21 or 22.
Because again, Damian Lillard is locked in 27.9, 29.8, and 31.6 over the next 3 seasons. He's locked in. Portland would have to capitulate. They would have to trade. At the moment, they're unwilling to. But if he wants out, then that same deal that the Lakers purportedly have been talking to the San Antonio Spurs about, they can now shift gears and offer exactly that to the Portland Trailblazers.
The Portland Trailblazers, they really have a team mix of players where it would be much more conducive for them to try to play like the old bad boy Pistons than to try to mimic exactly the style of the Golden State Warriors. Because their players, they do what they do mostly off the dribble. That's why I state that Dame Lillard truly has to step his game up. We know that he can score. We know that he's great in the clutch. But can he make his teammates better? That's what's stopping him from truly becoming a superstar. Sometimes you call someone a superstar because they have superstar potential. And Dame does have that. But can he make the other ancillary parts on his team much better than they actually are? That's what a true superstar does. We know that C.J. McCollum can bring it. We know that he can score 25 a game if he wants to. We know that Dame can average 26, 27 a game if he wants to. But can he bring those PPGs down to about 18 or 19, maybe raise his assists up to about 8 or 9, and move the ball more and get some of his other less talented teammates more involved in the offense? That's something that he's going to have to strongly consider if he does not get traded. He does have 3 years left on his contract, as Stephen A. Smith stated.
It's an interesting scenario that's developing before our very eyes. But as of this morning, at 9:58 West Coast time, Pacific time, 12:58 East Coast time. That is the information that I received.
So it is a calculated tweet. Max, what's your thoughts?
Well, there are two separate things here. One, the Knicks or the Lakers as a destination for players that's attractive now all of a sudden. It's very clear. I always say a fish rots from the head down. Same thing with organizations, right? Well, the Lakers, when Jim Buss was running the show, they couldn't get a single player to take their money. They had to give multi-year deals to Mozgov and Luol Deng, which was insane at the time. The Knicks also...
Well, one of the reasons why the LA Lakers had such a difficult time attaining free agents is because Mr. Kobe Bean Bryant was going all across the NBA, telling all of the other superstars across the league to not sign with the Lakers because the management was terrible, the ownership was derelict in their duties. That's what he was doing. The way that I know that is because he was acting as the plug, as the informant for Mr. Stephen A. Smith. For those of you who've been watching this show, First Take, for a long enough time, you'll remember that there was a period of time where Stephen A. Smith was launching a lot of vitriolic attacks against Jim Buss, and it seems as though it was personal. And it was very obvious that Stephen A. Smith was acting as an ambassador for Kobe Bean Bryant. At least to me, it was very obvious.
Also have not been able to get any players to take their money, but suddenly...
And let me also say another reason why top-line free agents did not sign with the Lakers over the past few years is because they did not want to play with Kobe Bean. That's another reason. It's not just the ownership.
Magic Johnson is showing that he's confident. LeBron James is with the Lakers, just like that. And suddenly there are just rumors that Dolan could sell the team, which Dolan's denied, but just the rumors alone, plus the presence of potentially franchise caliber player in Kristaps Porzingis if he comes back from the injury, and people are looking at New York. Oh, look at that! You hear different names. You know, obviously Jimmy Butler's name, and now you're hearing Lillard's name, and you're hearing Kyrie Irving's name. The two biggest, most glamorous markets in the country suddenly are viable again. That's big news.
I would rather see the Knicks attain Mr. Kyrie Irving. I would love to see them sign him rather than Damian Lillard. And I like Dame Lillard, but he's not on Kyrie's level.
I would say that as far as the Lillard stuff goes, Stephen A., should the Lakers now turn their attention to Lillard, I actually believe Lillard's tweeting what he did, which signals his openness to the idea that he could leave Portland. I
don't think that his tweet indicated that he was open to the idea of leaving Portland. I think that his tweet was indicative that he wants to leave Portland. Sometimes people are in bad situations, bad relationships, and they're just waiting for the right alternative to come along, the right opening to be available to them. And this Laker news, especially with the signing of LeBron James, is what Dame Lillard is looking for, because he knows he can't go to Golden State. Everybody can't go to Golden State. He knows he can't go to the Rockets because they already have CP3. He can't go to OKC because they have Russ. So where can he go? He can't go to Boston. They have Kyrie. So he looks at the Lakers and he says, LeBron worked pretty well with Kyrie. If Kyrie can do it, I can do it, because I know for a fact I can average 25 a game with LeBron.
That actually helps the Lakers in negotiations with the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard. And the reason I say that is because they are now going to take some of those resources. You know, the Spurs were driving an unreasonable bargain, asking for 3 first-round picks, reportedly, from the Lakers, in addition to Kuzma and Ingram and Ball, but especially Kuzma, whatever you can get for Ball, especially Kuzma and Ingram. 3 first-round picks going forward years, that's not a deal anyone's going to make. So the Lakers can now turn their attention to Portland, and that means that San Antonio knows, that other teams know, that Kawhi wants to go to the Lakers, meaning his price is down, and now it will fall even further in terms of trade value if the Lakers now devote those resources to a trade for Lillard. So I actually think that Lillard's tweet not only indicates an actual seriousness about maybe leaving Portland, maybe to join the Lakers, it also helps the Lakers in their negotiations with San Antonio for Kawhi.
I'm not quite sure about that, Max Kellerman. I see where you're trying to go with it, but I think that if the Lakers turn their attention toward Damian Lillard, it should be to acquire him, not to use him as a pawn to hope that Kawhi Leonard's trade value lowers. I don't think that that's going to happen. I think that San Antonio is going to stand on their square in regards to what they want for Kawhi. And if the Lakers decide to move on towards Damian Lillard, they should expect that the San Antonio Spurs are either going to keep him or there is the potential for them to move him to another team with more assets than the Lakers have or are willing to give up. And there's also the potential that Kawhi Leonard may sign with that team that he's traded to for the long term. You have to understand these things in business. When you turn away from one alternative, that person that is offering you that commodity, of course, they're going to move on to the next best thing or the next thing that may be even better. I think that San Antonio, they really want to make the trade with Boston, but they can't get Boston to give them what they really want. I believe they want Kyrie, Jaylen Brown, and a couple of first-round draft picks, or maybe even Kyrie and Jason Tatum and a couple of first-round draft picks. And Danny Ainge is like, hell no.
Because the Spurs have to know now, the best offer we may get for Kawhi may be about to get worse if some of those resources go to Portland.
Well, here's the thing. You know, that's a sensible argument, Max, and I'm not trying to dismiss it, but let me give you the inside. The Portland Trail Blazers, there's a debate as to which team despises or would despise doing business with the Lakers more, San Antonio or Portland. So we have to recognize the fact that with Lillard being locked up for 3 years, it might be the mindset of the Portland Trail Blazers. Ain't no way in hell we trying to help the Lakers. Not only are they within...
Well, might that be the mindset, Stephen A. Smith, or is that the mindset? You're supposed to be the insider, so can we get something a little bit more concrete than might be?
Within our same conference, they're within our same division. Why in God's name would we want to help them look better when we're notorious for despising everything they are and they represent? It's the antithesis to what the Blazers organization has been about. That.
Well, Stephen A., as you would say, let's be very, very clear. The Portland Trail Blazers haven't won shit since 1977. That's the fact of the matter. They had a little spark when Clyde Drexler was there. They had another spark when Rasheed and Steve Smith and Scottie Pippen and those dudes were there. Then they've had another spark with Dame Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge. But they're not rivals to the LA Lakers. They may not want to see the Lakers do well. But believe me, I think that they'll make that trade if the pot is sweet enough.
That's number one. The other thing to pay attention to here is this. You have a situation where the Portland Trail Blazers have to make a decision, Molly and Max. Because, like I said when C.J. McCollum, if you recall, Molly, we were sitting in studio.
Absolutely, sir. That was a great interview.
Max, you were on via satellite in L.A., like I am now, whereas CJ was in studio with myself and Molly. And what did I bring up, Molly, right in front of you? I said, do you think it might be in the best interest, because he challenged me, because I said, one of y'all need to go.
I do remember, yeah.
You got...
I wouldn't quite say that he challenged you. It looked like he was a little bit emotionally hurt. C.J. McCollum is one of these players who's trying to make leeway into the NBA media. And he's one of those people who likes to fabricate or concoct a lot of fictitious trade proposals and things of that nature. And it seemed like he could not handle the notion that turnabout is fair play when Stephen A. Smith looked him in his face and said that Portland should trade you. He looked a tad bit hurt.
Got CJ here. Think about it. Both of them are locked in for the next 3 seasons.
Yep.
Both of them, right? No out. CJ McCollum's at 25.7 next season, 27.5 the season after that, 29.3. They're both locked in. My proclamation was, look, together, y'all are big time. The problem is, y'all are really the only guys on y'all squad that have extreme value. So if keeping both of y'all is the route that the Portland Trail Blazers decide to go, where are y'all going to go? You're going to get bounced out in the first round for a third consecutive year.
That's very, very true, Stephen A. Smith, as long as they continue to play in that same style. That's why I've stated in regards to that team that the third alternative for them to improve astronomically is to look at their best player, Damian Lillard, and ask him to diversify his game. Okay, Dan, we know that you can score, but can you make your teammates better? Can you move the basketball? When you look at the great Isaiah Thomas, in the early to mid-'80s, he was averaging 21, 22 a game and 13 assists. But it wasn't until he lowered his assist numbers and his shots per game that the Detroit Pistons became contenders for world championships. Dame Lillard is going to have to consider that, and they're also going to have to fully embrace playing defense for 48 minutes. That's the only way that they're going to be able to augment their chances of making any type of leeway in the playoffs.
And already over the last 5 years, already over the last 5 years, you've been knocked out in 3 of the last 5 years. So Portland, Max, having to make that decision, essentially you're asking yourself, okay, what can we get for Lillard? And that would make CJ our number one option and the face of our franchise. Is that good for us? Those are the questions that Portland has to be asking themselves right now.
I agree with that, Mr. Stephen A. Smith. And beyond that, I think that that's a trade that they may have to make. They may have to make that trade because I think that CJ may be more amenable to becoming more of a classic point guard than Dame Lillard will. I think that Dame Lillard has become a little bit too infatuated with pointing his left index finger to his right wrist and saying Dame time. He wants to be the star and the hero. And there's a time for that, especially when you're a superstar. But what a great mega superstar knows is how to control the game. And that does not always entail scoring. I don't think that it's ever good when your point guard or your alleged point guard averages 27 points a game and he's only shooting 42, 43% from the field. That's not good. That does not spell out championship.
Right, but think of Neil Olshey, the GM up there, who's a wheeler dealer, an excellent GM.
He likes the wheeler deal.
And he's able to remake rosters on the fly, stay good, and get younger and better and cheaper. He's shown the ability to do that. So if Lillard was shut down by Drew Holiday and they ran into a Pelicans team that knocked them out.
He was doubled a lot.
That's right, Steve. He was double-teamed a lot, but what does that say about him that he's the point guard and he was double-teamed? That should have opened up so many more opportunities for his teammates. What does New Orleans know about Damian Lillard when they say to themselves, we'll double-team him and we'll shut down their whole team? Because he does not know how to find the open man. They don't run a real movement offense. Everything runs through him, and he does not know how to adapt. He's not a good enough captain to assist his team in acclimating themselves to whatever style of defense the opponent is playing. That speaks volumes to me. When an opponent says to themselves, we're going to double team this team's point guard and we're going to shut down their whole offense, that should be easy money for a great point guard when he gets double teamed.
Okay, but still, Drew Holiday did a great job on him. Yep. The offense stagnated. Olshey may look at this roster and say, we need to change some things. If they could bring in an Ingram, Kuzma, maybe both, maybe Alonzo Ball, who knows, for Damian Lillard, get younger, cheaper, maybe better, maybe it would be in their best interest.
Well, listen, I would say to you this. You can say those maybes, and I'll give you that, because Neil Olshey is a credible GM. He certainly has done a decent job. Nobody's trying to knock him. And he is known as somebody who's a chance taker, likes to remake things, and he's not averse to doing unorthodox things. So certainly something like this is within the possibility in terms of how he likes to wheel and deal and what have you. I would tell you this, Max, the fact that they got swept by the New Orleans Pelicans in the first round is enough ammunition for him to justify the change. Because
that's my thing, brother. I mean, when we look at the Toronto Raptors, they won 59 games and they got swept in the second round by the best player in the NBA. And they knew that they had to do something drastic. So I think that Portland may want to consider doing something even more drastic because they did not even have championship aspirations playing in the Western Conference. Toronto actually did.
With Lillard there, and with McCollum there, having Mo Harkless locked in for the next 2 years, Evan Turner locked in for the next 2 years, Leonard locked in for the next 2 years, these kind of things. The fact, and Nurkic, you've got to re-up him, by the way. If you got swept in the first round with those guys on your squad, perhaps the way to go is to make change, particularly if the Lakers are all of a sudden willing to give up the same pieces they were willing to give up for Kawhi Leonard if they're willing to give that to Portland.
All right.
I seriously doubt if the Lakers are going to be willing to give up the same pieces to Portland for Dame Lillard that they were for Kawhi Leonard, Stephen A. Smith. Once again, Kawhi is almost uniformly recognized as a top 5 NBA player at the very worst by NBA pundits and NBA aficionados. Dame Lillard, when you start to write down the players in the NBA that are definitely better than him, I don't see him coming out any higher than maybe 12th. I don't even think that he cracks the top 10. I mean, he might. I will have to seriously think about that. But just off the top of my head, you have LeBron, KD, Steph, Kawhi if he's fully healthy, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, Kyrie. I mean, that's just off the top of my damn head. So I think that Dame Lillard is a player with great potential. But he still has a lot to learn in regards to how to make his teammates better.
We have to leave it there. So here's what I'm taking from this conversation, that the Lillard tweet is a big deal, and if it was an injury report, he'd be day-to-day.
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see what happens with Mr. Dame Lillard. Peace.